All right, so let's start with the basics, the difference between make and do. It all boils down to this simple idea. Make is about creating or producing something, while do is about actions, jobs, or responsibilities.
Exactly. For instance, if you say, I made a cake, it means you created something, a brand new, delicious cake. But if you say, I did my homework, you're talking about an action, a task you completed.
And that's the core rule. Make equals creation, do equals action. It's simple, but only if you practice the right examples, right?
Right. Let's dive into some common expressions, or collocations as we call them. For make, think about phrases like make a decision. Here, you're creating or finalizing a choice. Make a mistake? That's when you create, well, an error. Or how about make an effort? It means you give energy to something. You're creating the effort.
Oh, and food. Can't forget that. You make dinner, breakfast, coffee, basically anything that doesn't exist until you whip it up, like, I made pancakes this morning. You get the idea.
Exactly. Now, on the do side, think about chores or tasks. You do the laundry, do the dishes, do your homework. It's all about actions or obligations.
Here's a fun example of how understanding this can really click. I worked with someone who kept saying, I did a mistake instead of I made a mistake. And it's such a common error. But once they learned the logic, it was like a light bulb moment. From that point on, they felt so much more confident every time they spoke English.
That's such a great example. And it really highlights how learning these collocations, the fixed phrases, makes all the difference. Once you know them, it feels automatic, like second nature.
Totally. And trust me, your confidence will go through the roof once you master these. Let's keep going.
Now that we've covered the basics, let's tackle the tricky part. Those phrases that seem interchangeable, but just aren't. For example, have you ever heard someone say, I need to do a decision?
Oh yeah, and every time it's like a record scratch moment. In English, it's actually make a decision. You create the decision, you're finalizing a choice. Saying do a decision just doesn't sound right, you know?
Exactly. And this is where idiomatic English can trip you up. It's not just about rules, but fixed expressions. Like, make a mistake, instead of do a mistake. Why? Because a mistake is something you create. It didn't exist until you made it.
Right? Another classic mix-up is saying do an effort instead of make an effort. You're not performing a task here. You're creating effort, putting energy into something. So always make an effort.
And here's a little tip to help these stick. Associate make with creativity. Things like cooking, planning, deciding. It's about bringing something into existence. On the other hand, do is for tasks. Repetitive, ongoing actions like chores or obligations.
Oh, and here's where things get interesting. I once had a student who was super advanced, like near native level, but they kept saying do a decision in work meetings. And honestly, it kind of undermined their professionalism. Those little details really matter when you're speaking English at a higher level.
That's such an important point. If you're aiming for fluency, these subtle distinctions are key. Memorizing fixed expressions like make a decision or do your homework makes your speech sound more natural and confident.
And like anything in language, the more you use these phrases, the easier it gets. Practice is what makes it all stick. Speaking of which, we should give our listeners something practical to try. All right, we said we'd give you something practical to try, so let's get hands-on. Learning really sticks when you actually use it, right? Let's dive into some examples where you can practice make and do.
Absolutely. Here's a great way to practice. Try role-playing everyday scenarios. For example, imagine you're planning a party. What expressions with make would you use? You'd probably say, let's make a guest list, or make some calls to invite friends. And with do? Maybe do the shopping or do the cleaning.
Exactly. And seriously, don't just imagine it. Speak it out loud. Grab a friend or even just talk to yourself. The more you hear yourself using these expressions, the more natural they become. And let's not forget, you can always create sentences and share them online, for feedback.
That's such a good idea. Posting your sentences on social media or study platforms is a great way to get input and improve. Plus, seeing how others use make and do in different contexts can spark new ideas for your own practice.
For sure. And here's the thing. Don't shy away from making mistakes. Like seriously, mistakes are gold. They're how you learn. Every slip up is just proof that you're trying, and trying is what gets you to the next level.
Exactly. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Each time you practice, you're building stronger habits, and before you know it, sentences like make a decision or do your homework will roll off your tongue without a second thought.
So go for it. Practice, try out new sentences, and remember, it's not about being flawless, it's about enjoying the process and celebrating each small win along the way.
And on that note, great work today, everyone. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and don't forget to have fun with it. English is your journey. Embrace it.
That's all for today. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll see you next time on NeuroEnglish Now.